The movie opens up with Clyde Shelton, a loving husband and father. He's in his modest home with his wife and young daughter, doing some casual work while they prepare dinner. Everything seems normal and peaceful. He heard a knock on the door, went and opened it, and two men, Clarence Darby and Rupert Ames, force their way into Clyde's home in a brutal home invasion. It's a chaotic and terrifying scene. Clyde is knocked unconscious and tied down. The criminals commit terrible crimes while he's helpless. They killed his wife and daughter. The police arrived too late, but both men were arrested. The next thing we see is the justice system kicking in. Nick Rice, a hotshot prosecutor, is introduced. He's young, ambitious, and smart, but he believes in cutting deals to maintain his high conviction rate. Nick is assigned to Clyde's case. Clyde wanted both criminals to be sentenced to death for the death of his wife and daughter, but instead of pursuing the death penalty for both men, Nick strikes a deal. He allows one of the men, Darby, to testify against the other in exchange for a lighter sentence. Darby, the more violent one, gets a reduced punishment. Rupert Ames, the less responsible one, is sentenced to death. The lawyer told Clyde that the offer was the best they can get him. Clyde was devastated. He trusted the system, but it failed him. 10 years pass. We see Nick Rice, a high-performing prosecutor in public, but at home he struggles to balance his demanding job with being a husband and father. He's married to a woman named Kelly. She's supportive but visibly frustrated by how little time Nick spends with the family. Their relationship is strained, not because of lack of love, but because Nick is constantly tied to his work, even during dinner or family time. They have a young daughter, a sweet and innocent girl who clearly misses her father's attention. Nick mostly misses his daughter's cello recital, an important family moment, choosing instead to meet with colleagues or handle a work emergency. 10 years after the home invasion, justice seems to be catching up, at least on the surface. Rupert Ames, the man who took the plea deal and was sentenced to death, is scheduled to be executed by lethal injection. Nick Rice, along with a group of officials and witnesses, attends the execution. Everything seems routine. Rupert is strapped to the table. The drugs begin to flow. But then something goes wrong. Instead of a quick and painless death, Rupert starts convulsing violently. He screams in agony, blood pouring out from him. People panic. The execution becomes horrifying. Clearly, this was not the correct drug mixture. The incident shocks everyone, and an investigation is launched immediately. Nick and his colleagues begin to suspect sabotage. Someone had switched the chemicals used in the lethal injection. But who could have done it, and how? Meanwhile, Clarence Darby, the man who made the deal and had a reduced sentence, is now walking free, and still living his life, though always on the edge and involved in criminal activities. Then, not long after the botched execution, Clarence Darby, now living freely, in his usual element, arrogant, reckless, and still involved in shady deals, receives a mysterious phone call from someone using a voice disguising device. The caller seems to know everything about him, his habits, his location, and even his crimes. Darby, nervous but curious, listens. The voice told him the police were after him and that he wants to help him stay out of prison. He looked out from the window of the apartment he was staying in, and indeed the police were coming for him. He ran out of the apartment, shot at the police car, and was running on the roof of the building as the anonymous caller was directing him on where to go. The voice tells him to go to a nearby location where a police car is waiting with the driver knocked unconscious. Confused but intrigued, and sensing danger, Darby does as he's told. He gets into the police car, grabs a gun and wakes up the officer. With the gun pointed to the officer's head, he tells him to drive off, and they drove farther away from the city, into isolated areas. Finally, the car stops at a dark, abandoned location. There, the officer came down to ease himself, but Darby tries to kill him, and it turns out that the officer was Clyde in disguise. The man whose family Darby had murdered. Elsewhere, Darby wakes up strapped to a table in a dark room. He's terrified. Standing over him is Clyde Shelton. Clyde is not the same man we saw 10 years ago. Now, he's calm, focused, and dangerously intelligent. He tells Darby that the justice system failed him, so now he will administer justice his own way. Clyde tortures Darby with precision, using surgical tools, and even records the entire process. Later, Darby's dismembered remains are found in an abandoned warehouse. Everyone is stunned. Who did this? How? And why? But Nick has a gut feeling, this isn't just random violence. This is personal. Soon after, the investigation leads the police to Clyde Shelton's garage. They find suspicious equipment, traces of the tools used in Darby's killing and the chemicals from the execution sabotage. Clyde doesn't run. In fact, he calmly waits for them. When the police arrive, he didn't resist arrest. He even opens the door for them, and surrendered. It's unsettling. He wants to be arrested. At the station, Clyde insists on talking to Nick Rice directly. In the interrogation room, he surprises Nick by admitting everything, but with a twist. No evidence was found against him, and they needed a confession from him. So he decided to make a deal with the prosecutor. In exchange for a confession, he demanded for a comfortable bed and cell. His demand was met. In court, Clyde represents himself and asked to be on bail as no tangible evidence has been presented against him. He uses legal arguments to manipulate the court. The judge agrees to grant him bail. Angrily, he exposes how the system works in favor of criminals and shames the judge into granting him special consideration, even though he has just murdered 2 people. Clyde sarcastically mocks her, proving that even a confessed killer can trick the system. The judge is humiliated. Bail is denied. Clyde is sent to jail, but he's still in control. Next, Clyde makes another demand. He tells Nick Rice he wants a gourmet steak for lunch and wants it delivered to his cell by 1 p.m. If not, Darby's attorney dies. A little investigation was made and discovered that Darby's attorney has been missing for 3 days, so they accepted to make the deal with him, a steak lunch in exchange for the attorney's location. The steak lunch is delivered, but just a few minutes late. He gave them the attorney's location, but before they got there, he was already dead. Clyde eats his meal quietly and shares some with his cellmate. But after the meal, he stabbed his cellmate to death, and he was moved to solitary confinement. They soon realized Clyde is not just a grieving father, he's a strategic mastermind, with military experience in intelligence and engineering. And he is out to eliminate people involved in the original case of the murder of his wife and daughter. Elsewhere, prosecutor Nick Rice and his colleague were having a meeting with the judge overseeing the case, in her office. Her cell phone rings, she picks it up, and her phone explodes, killing her instantly. They were stunned. No one can figure out how Clyde orchestrated such an attack, from a maximum security cell. Nick goes to confront Clyde, and yet he makes another deal with him: release him by 6 a.m. the next morning or he kills everyone. Nick and his assistant, Sarah Lowell, continue to investigate, desperate to find how Clyde is committing these murders from inside his cell. They begin reviewing old city maps, checking surveillance blind spots, and looking for any property connected to Clyde. Desperate to stop the murders, and everyone involved. Together with their team, they worked tirelessly all through the night till around 6 a.m. in the morning. And nothing happened. They decided to go home, freshen up, and come back. Immediately they got into their cars to leave. The cars all got blown up, killing 6 officials from the Justice Department. Sarah was also killed. Nick is devastated. She was one of the few people who believed in doing things the right way, and now she's gone. Her death becomes the breaking point for him. Everyone feared they could be next. The mayor of Philadelphia demands answers. Nick sends his family away for fear that Clyde may come after them. The dead officials were buried, and on their way back, their vehicles were attacked, killing Nick's colleagues and friend. Back to work, Nick retraces everything he and Sarah had been working on. That's when he realizes something crucial. Clyde owns a property adjacent to the prison. Years ago, he bought a small, abandoned warehouse next to the prison wall. Nick rushes to the site, and what he discovered shocks him. Inside the warehouse is a secret underground tunnel that leads directly into Clyde's cell. That's how he's been sneaking in and out, killing people, planting bombs, and returning undetected. Every move, every death, was executed by Clyde himself while pretending to be locked away. He didn't just want revenge. He wanted to expose the entire system, and prove that justice could be bent, manipulated, or destroyed by someone who understood its weaknesses. Now fully aware of Clyde's secret tunnel and how he's carried out every step of his plan, Nick and the authorities discover that Clyde has one last attack planned, this time, on a government meeting involving the city's top officials, including the mayor. They find a large explosive device hidden beneath the city's main hall, rigged to detonate during a scheduled meeting. If it goes off, it will kill everyone inside, making it the deadliest act in Clyde's mission. Nick goes into Clyde's cell to convince him not to set the bomb off. Clyde is shocked to see Nick there. He tries to justify everything, and finally sets the bomb off. Nick leaves Clyde in the cell, races out, and seals the entrance shut. Clyde realizes what's happening. The bomb which was supposed to go off in the city hall was now under his bed. He's trapped. He sits quietly, and watches the bomb timer count down. The explosion goes off, killing only him. No civilians are harmed. Later, Nick attends his daughter's recital. This time, he's present. He watches her play the cello, something he missed before. It's a quiet moment, but it speaks volumes. Clyde is gone, but his message shook the system. Nick, and perhaps others, may now choose justice over convenience.